Well, welcome to the pub, everyone. We're here to talk about Fit for TV and what that terminology means. But in a sense, we're here very much to hear your thoughts on how Fit for TV works in practice. So you've had the chance to view a cross-section of typical videos on YouTube. All of the content that you've been looking at is already deemed brand safe. And Barb's ambition is to measure anything that's regarded as brand safe. What we're here today is to identify which content within all of the brand safe content for advertisers might be additionally classified as Fit for TV. Really, the opportunity to test out this definition and see how it works in practice. And we're doing that kind of in front of the cameras to give the wider industry the opportunity to hear you talking and hear what sorts of things come up when we try to apply the definition, the three-part definition of Fit for TV.
The fact that we're moving into this like Fit for TV is really interesting. I mean, it's great that we can measure YouTube. I know that you do lots of measuring every type of AV in all of your plans as well. So it's great that all of that data's together and it's kind of been measured in a something that's aligned with each other. But I do think it's like this Fit for TV is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that will make the biggest change with how to plan AV.
I think it's, sorry. Carry on. I was going to say, I think what's very interesting is that we used to define TV based on the thing that you watched it on, didn't we? And now we can't shortcut to that anymore. So I think we've got to find a different way of thinking about it. And from my perspective at ITV, the thing that we need to be very careful of and understand is the content of a similar enough typology that actually people can make the same shortcuts in their heads about the brands that they then see advertised within it. And that's the bit that I think is really important for us. So I think, it's brilliant that Barb can measure YouTube, and I think it's really important that we find a workable way of applying this sort of definition. Because the thing we always say is people don't say as advertised on Facebook. So, if something is going to be as advertised on TV, then we need to understand what that definition of TV now is, if it can't just be shortcutted to the screen.
Yeah, I was going to say about the differentiation point, like somebody mentioned earlier, consumers don't differentiate. So the content, as far as they're concerned, is AV content in whatever way they're consuming it. For us, it's about having a robust measurement system. So with Barb, it's kind of the gold standard of AV measurement, and so being able then to apply that to additional content that people are viewing as TV is incredibly important for us. Yes, there are lots of other measurements in place that we use from a digital perspective in terms of effectiveness, but having it all in one place so that we can almost measure like for like is really important to us. I think the next stage of it is getting more granular around, like you can do with linear TV, and getting more granular around how people are consuming that content, that online content, in the same way that we can analyse linear TV.
So the fact there's more opportunities to get advertising out on different content, different platforms to consumers is a win, I think. The downside of that is, of course, yes, you can plan the media, you can access the content, but is that content viewable? Is it equivalent in driving what is the most important thing for us, which is driving outcomes, driving behavioural change, getting someone to consider you, to buy you, to change perceptions of your brand? So is that content, does it have the same power, similar to around the kind of as seen on TV, as linear TV would have done? And therefore it comes down to equivalence and understanding in as much detail as you can the relativeness of that platform and driving the same outcome. So if it does, if you have to pay more or pay less, then fine. But unless you've got equivalence, you can't put them side by side. And that's where I think the opportunity comes. So it's a really good opportunity now with the market growing and being more fragmented and having opportunity to get in front of customers. But I think we need to be careful around how we embrace that opportunity.
So let's get into them. Let's take them case by case.
So we could start with the first one, which was the Busta rhymes, which you just mentioned. So I thought maybe we could place to start, because I think that was a really good example personally of where I had to let go of my own personal subjective view about it and refer back to what the idea of this was, which is to take the subjectivity out of it and decide, does it tick these three boxes?
I thought exactly the same. I was asking myself, would MTV show this? And I was like, yeah, probably. So therefore it's all right.
So if no,
Whether I want to advertise in it is a different question. But
so it wasn't to your personal
Yeah.
taste. So,
So I should probably add in, because I work for Vivo and that's one of our bits of content. So yeah, I mean, to your point, subjectively you take yourself away from some of the themes in there. We recognise that some of our content has got some older themes or contentious themes within it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't fit the Fit for TV framework. Back to Rhiann's point, like it would be, our content originally is made for TV, for broadcast, and on the brand, so the brand safety thing for me becomes a brand suitability thing as opposed to brand safety. It's not uncontrollable stuff that we don't have an editorial oversight, that we don't look at and view before we publish that content. And then we have a whole host recognising that certain advertisers may or may not want to be in that environment, that enable them to exclude running in environments where there are themes that advertisers aren't comfortable with. So being able to do that ensures that there's brand safety and suitability, a bit of alignment with content that may not sit that well with people, with individuals, but at the same time our themes that are shown on broadcast channels and all sorts of subscription pod services. So
let's put it to the vote. So if you show us your verdict on the Busta Rhymes beach ball video. Okay. So unanimous conclusion that Busta Rhymes beach ball passes the test, fit for TV. So that was one of the easy ones. Well, who knows? Let's see. Thank you. I think perhaps the best way to talk about this is to be led by what you want to talk about. So just the next one. Yachts.
yes, go Yachts, Mr. Beast, yeah.
Mr. Beast and yachts from $1 to $1 billion.
I wanted a series of it. I wanted it to be produced professionally and with some editorial framework, and I wanted to watch it for 6 episodes because I thought it was really good.
My sons watch it.
But why they
other
squidged
things.
it into
Yeah.
15 minutes, I was like, and put the silly $1 signs on everything, like it was from a cheap supermarket. I wanted it to be bigger, and I wanted it to be more than what it was.
So you like the idea, you like the concept in a way.
It was almost like if it was like taken to Channel 4 as like a pilot. I was like, I want to do something like this, and then Channel 4, then ITV, then go, oh, I know what we could do. We could actually, yeah.
Well, I don't know if everyone picked up, but it is influencer advertising for their own chocolate company.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's a brilliant content idea. So you could see it living absolutely very happily as a content idea on a mainstream broadcaster channel. But I think probably done with slightly higher production values and so on. But it is a just really clever thing. You just keep going, don't you? You go, it's yachts, it's cars, it could be all sorts, jewellery, exactly.
I could see Keith Lemon kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It could be.
Yeah. I think the thing that stuck out for me more in that one than any of the other videos was the ad placement within it. I suddenly felt like, I was getting into this, and then I was dropped into a 5 second, 6 second, I don't know, I think it was a mobile game ad. And I was like, I was enjoying that. And then suddenly I get back into it. And unlike, I think, traditional TV, you understand the arc and you understand that I'm gearing up for a break or it's the end of an episode. Yeah. I just didn't get that flow. And then suddenly the ads were and they were more annoying because I was like, I was not expecting it.
And a random collection of ads, right?
I don't think that's a Mr. Beast thing though.
No, I think that's a platform
But
thing.
I think it is a really interesting. So we see it in the research that we do with viewers, which is actually one of the things that it's not like. Essentially, what they recognise is that the story arcs of shows are built for ads, and so they know that there is a thing. You kind of go, you're going to get to this peak, and then actually, a couple of minutes off, and then you're back in again.
And it helps with the
and
story.
it does help with the story, and the ads actually are recognised as being playing almost a role in the content in that way. So I think it is a really interesting point. So yes, we might respond to it as professionals, but I think viewers do as well, even if they don't articulate it in quite the same way.
Because actually, he could have left. An excellent break would have been at the $1 billion yacht. That's a perfect time for a break because I'm like, I want to see what the $1 billion. Okay, I'll watch the ads because I want to see what it looks like.
But that's the same with broadcast, isn't it? Amazon's exactly the same. You don't get any curation of the ad break in Amazon content in the way that the great editorial teams or commissioners are going actually direct this piece of program with a 15-minute whatever insertion break. But then you also go, well, actually, if you're a young 15-year-old sends my son, and you accept that you're just going to get an ad halfway through the content, maybe that's all right.
The value exchange for going to traditional linear TV channels where you expect the content to be a high value, I think the onus is on them to also create better content.
So you mean linear TV channels?
Yeah, I think the actual, it doesn't just apply to the ad makers, it applies to the content makers.
Sure. But the linear TV, I mean that is one of the considerations when you put content on air. You're going, this has got to be content that is going to attract a very mainstream wide audience. So you do look, the schedulers look at it very differently from the content that they put on ITVX, for example. So that is absolutely part of the.
And it's why you want to advertise incentive rates, because you get stickier content, and it's the whole premise of the quality. But I guess what's interesting with the Yachts one is I didn't make it past the break, so the content wasn't good enough to stay on for. So then that, I guess, if you're hooked on that level of content, you'll subscribe, whatever. I guess it's different, but the content's got to be good enough. Otherwise, the advertising's actually taking you away from the content. Someone's paid for the ad, so you can.
It was one of the longer examples that we gave.
There was a
about
couple.
15-minute kind of video. That one.
I happily watched all of that.
To see the
I did.
dolly up.
I got to 50 million, then the ad came on. I'm done. I'm done.
But the thing that it does raise is, are we so wedded to traditional methods of creating content that we can't accept when someone does something that's a little bit left field and a bit different, that could then be suitable for TV? Is that a consideration that actually, younger people, my kids seeing that, they see it on regular TV, they don't make the distinction, and therefore for them it's a bit quirky, it's a bit different, it's not linear TV. So I just wonder whether it's a whole new approach to creating content, which is actually a bit different, a bit irreverent, and quite cool.
Yeah, and in some ways perhaps it had production values of its own. So it had big splashy titles and.
But cartoony.
I didn't. The production quality didn't bother me either.
I thought the production quality was good. Like in a lot of ways, I thought it was like something again I would see on MTV Cribs, something similar to that, right? And in a way, it was one of the most fit for TV pieces of content I saw, which made it even more annoying when an ad drops in a just random moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't discussed the chocolate break ad. That's in the middle as well.
Yeah.
I think we've almost looked at the content outside of. Did you get to that bit?
I didn't get to
So,
It was very jarring.
and it was so weird that I just was not expecting it. It took me, I would say, 45 seconds to actually work out what was happening. Even if they just left it as drones dropping chocolate on other boats, I think that would have been an ad enough for me. Let alone that they went to some weird QVC style shop to look at the different selection of chocolates.
Don't forget Barney's in Walmart.
So for me that just talks right out of TV.
Mr. Beast monetizing
His own product.
It's got a big following, right? So if I don't know how many views those bits of content get, but if you literally got 10 million views, and that's a following that returns.
Reportedly 147 million views.
So you haven't got
that video.
So what's interesting, you haven't got the editorial oversight, but if it's a channel that's they've got their own oversight, they're not going to ruin their own brand.
Yeah, I didn't make it to the ad, the chocolate ad, which I'm now going to go back and watch the chocolate ad. But was the chocolate ad integrated into the content?
Yeah, it was the same.
So
Same
they
people.
did, so it wasn't. So was there a delineation?
No, there's not.
Well, it started being integrated because they dropped a load of chocolate. They had drones, they gave some of their chocolate, and then after they'd done that for 30 seconds, then it cut to this QVC shop.
You can buy it from
But all the way through the content before, there had been chocolate things and people being given chocolate.
So again, from a tedious regulatory perspective, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So on that basis, it would fail that. But to your point about, I don't have any issue with kind of quirky, interesting, different, quite cool approaches. That's absolutely fine. But if you're looking at it as a piece of content that has a weird product placement with extraordinary brand prominence in it, that just doesn't work.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that point. I would not.
So that makes it a regulatory challenge.
Yes.
So again, even though it might be right, so you might have a bit, so you might have a bit more reassurance on the content, even though it's not got editorial oversight, because it's a well-known producer of content, you might believe it's brand safe and you can actually drive 12 million views in a day, but from a regulatory point of view, he's selling chocolate bars.
Basically,
So it's product placement plus a call to action, which means it's...
Yeah. Let's go for the vote. Fit for TV, Mr. Beast.
Oh no. Tricky. I'm listening to Kate in the corner. I'm listening to Kate. Kate's on a really good pitch.
I think it's
So-
fact.
Really in the
I think
middle.
it's the fact of.
It's the fact,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
it's fact, yeah.
I don't
It's
think
the
they
fact-
can-
It's the, it's, the,
it's the
no, it's the
ad.
fact that he is selling his own products in
Yeah.
the middle of it, and that's just
If it
not.
wasn't that,
It's
Had that not
if it
been
wasn't
there,
that,
it'd be that.
Because I think he could have
Yeah.
got away,
Yes.
even if
Yeah.
he had some chocolate bars and he named Mr. Beast chocolate. I think I'm in, but it was a mad.
It was
ad break.
influencer marketing on a massive scale.
Okay.
Let's do Mr. Crypto, shall we?
Oh, crikey.
Crypto Jack, a cryptocurrency tutorial. So for you at home, this is how to do it. What do we make of this one? Is this going to be a troublesome debate or a quick vote?
Things cut and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you coming from?
It felt to me that I couldn't trust it. It wouldn't pass any regulatory process. Editorially, there was not much thought given to it, and there's a bit of user-generated content. Someone's idea, so I don't feel that's fit for TV.
So very short shrift for you, James. Any other
And added to that, he's selling a course, isn't he? He's selling people to subscribe to his course and try and make money.
It's like gambling, isn't it? I mean, it's...
I thought it was deeply irresponsible.
But it's deemed brand safe. Sorry, not brand.
brand
Yeah,
safe,
they're all.
yeah.
They're all.
They all can.
But all of that. Didn't you say all the content has been deemed to be brand safe?
It's all in YouTube.
Well, it had ads.
advertising.
Yeah.
It had Shopify ads
Yeah.
in it.
Don't understand how that would be deemed as under GARM as brand safe. It's encouraging gambling, really, isn't it? Or investing, or whatever you call it, same thing.
There's definitely no financial regulation warnings in there about,
No.
You could lose
this is, yes, exactly. Yeah.
You all would have seen advertising in and around that cryptocurrency tutorial. So
invest responsibly or
so,
something.
So YouTube/GARM has concluded that it's advertisable content.
I think it sits in the same piece you were talking about. Like, if I wanted to invest in crypto, I might have come across his video, but I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't know, be advertised in like a lean back, fit for TV moment watching that.
I think out of all of the videos, for me, that was cross. Not brand safe. Good GARM, although that's obviously says who it is, but not brand safe. Completely breaks every regulation. Editorial content, and just worst one for me.
So lots of discomfort around the table.
Well, his content was clearly around how to trade, though, as well, wasn't it? And like how to buy and sell, when to buy and sell, pretty much, rather than anything else, which is a huge form of financial advice, which needs to come under the right regulatory requirements.
So let's put that one to the vote. I think I know what's going to happen. Okay, there we are. Not fit for TV. It doesn't pass the test. So, what haven't we talked about?
Lewis Capaldi on a date.
Lewis Capaldi on a date with Amelia Dimoldenberg. So this is a series. It seems the chicken shop date. What do we think?
So I felt like I was watching First Dates. So or a kind of a swearier version of it.
Yeah.
Although sometimes you get loads of that in First Dates as well. I didn't find it particularly engaging, like just the two of them for so long. Like First Dates cuts it up into little bits a bit better, but that was my primary thought, was I'm watching that same program just on in this channel
So
instead.
it had a familiarity. It felt broadcastable.
Yeah,
I think from the opening credits, that was actually my favourite bit, the opening and the closing, where she stitched together some felt for the logo and everything. That was I didn't like the content.
actually, it's
I
the
didn't
only
find
one.
her very funny.
Yeah.
But
It's the only one that really had that, didn't it? Actually, it had an intro and an outro. kind of
like
thing.
I knew where I was.
Yeah, it had a brand.
Yeah.
To it. Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. I loved. Yeah, I really loved
Really
it.
funny.
Just because the energy between them, I felt it was well matched. They were sparring, but in a kind of undercutting kind of way, which I found very funny. Yeah, thought it was great. I thought it was definitely fit for TV.
Yeah.
And whilst it hasn't got oversight, again, editorial oversight, it's having Lewis Capaldi there as in his fame. What's the difference between that and carpool karaoke, really?
Yes.
Which obviously is on TV.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it felt a bit like that.
But also, she's quite a famous comedian as well, isn't she? And does a lot of TV writing, and I think you could just there was a level of intelligence around the humour that was clever. I thought.
I thought it was fun. The production was pretty good.
Yeah.
I could imagine seeing that on TV. Definitely. I didn't have any worries about the regulatory stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of swearing in there, but again, nothing that you haven't seen on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of, from my point of view, fit the bill.
And did we hear a concern? Was it yours, Sam, about editorial oversight? I suppose
Well, it hasn't got it, obviously, but I think from a sort of, I guess, like a PSP point of view, but if you've got someone that's created a strand and she's going to create more of them, there's got to be she's got to be responsible.
She's got a formula,
She doesn't
hasn't
want
she?
to ruin her own. Yeah.
And his as
And
well.
his.
He
That's
doesn't
what I was
ruin
going to
his,
say.
yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point about it, which is the fact that she's got Lewis Capaldi means that she's got a responsibility to him.
Yeah.
He's going to be worrying about his own personal brand. So the fact that there's somebody as well known as that in it means that it sort of almost gives you some sense of editorialization, doesn't it? Because otherwise you wouldn't have said yes.
So you could pretty much trust it as a brand safe environment.
I think so.
basis.
Yeah. So editorial oversight in that context, we're imagining isn't some kind of senior person in the corporation. It's presumably Amelia Dimoldenberg.
The content creator who's got to they care about their product, I guess.
And their ability to attract stars of that caliber as well.
Yeah.
So you sort of get, so given, I don't know if they made it before or after he, took his mental health break from kind of after Glastonbury, but you sort of go, actually somebody who's talked about issues and somebody who is that well known, I think actually that gives me more confidence than anything else in a way.
So if we were going to the vote straight away, it sounds like round the table is going to be yeses all round.
Do that?
Can I just stop for 1 minute?
Oh.
Because I agree. I don't disagree with any of it. I don't remember seeing an ad within it, and I think I know that you can have ads in it, and I don't remember seeing it, rightly or wrongly. I guess from an ad awareness point of view, it's not great, but I think it was almost too short to have the space for an ad. And then where does the ad live? Where does it sit? Because if it sits after the content and then you've turned off. Yeah. But did anyone remember seeing a pre-roll?
I saw a pre-roll. Yeah.
It was the content was 5-6 minutes, just under 6 minutes.
Yeah, I just found it.
There wasn't a mid-roll there.
But I just found it too short. I just found it like.
But you could have a 6-second. You could have a short one, can you?
Was that because it felt like TV?
Yeah, maybe it felt like TV, and I was waiting for more. And actually, as a 6-minute piece of copy, I was like, what is like?
Where's my ad?
Yeah.
Felt like there was
actually,
going to be an ad break
because
coming.
imagine if you put a nice 60-second, because that's prime for a 60-second skippable brand ad for launch. It feels like TV. It feels like first dates, but what you wouldn't do that. I don't know. It's just there is a bit of an ad. Like yes, it definitely feels like fit for TV, but from a media planning point of view,
There must be pre-roll opportunity.
I mean, there definitely was, right? Like,
But your advice to Amelia would be you're onto something good here. Make it a bit longer and put that in the...
Make more ads.
because also it's edited in such a way that it could really
You could
easily
just have one,
edit it to-
tune in after the break for my date with so-and-so.
So here's an example where it's fit for TV and you want to
And
know
I think
how you can advertise
yeah,
it.
I think so.
Great. Okay, let's put chicken shop date to the test, and there it is. It's sails through fit for TV. Fantastic, everyone. So the work is done, but let's summarise. Just it'd be interesting to hear anyone's reflections on the experience of.
For me, it's just a framework, and then that enables people to take advantage of growth in TV and across different platforms, and then the subjective thing, which sometimes your default is to be subjective. Oh, I like that content, I don't like that content, but then you have to take that away and understand if it meets the criteria, which is the job of this to then bucket it into a landscape a advertiser can then appraise, and then it's a planning job on top of that. It gives you a pool of opportunity that you can create some sort of like-for-like comparison, so that you can actually then apply, classify, and take advantage of good quality TV opportunities in the way that people are consuming TV today.
I think from a TV planning point of view, it's incredibly important to have that very high standard of measurement in place, and if we can expand that out into other channels like YouTube, then it gives us as planners a real confidence that measurement we can take back to clients and demonstrate the effectiveness and the impact, which is what you mentioned earlier about that impact. So I think being able to apply that gold standard of measurement into other areas is incredibly useful tool.
I think by and large it's interesting how we've all come from different seats within the industry, but actually more or less have agreed on what is and what isn't. And so then that maybe gives me more confidence that Barb will be able to apply that definition and put that same gold standard, as you say, onto things that then we can all take away and use as a currency. Yeah.
I think it's also a really nice opportunity for YouTube and Google to take a bit more of control over the platform, because I think they're so easily like, well, this is not us, this is the people who create the content, this is nothing to do with us. But actually with this, it kind of, and I know they work with certain influencers and certain channels, and so I think with that it gives them some responsibility of like, actually, do you know what, like if you want your videos to be part of this, these are the types of things that you need to do. Like Mr. Beast, like you're making lots of money, you're right, but like if you don't want to focus on chocolate, you'll be able to enter this category, which attracts the likes of much bigger advertisers and da-da-da-da. But like, I think it gives them something to go off of and gives them something, to take control of their platform.
Well, they move from being a platform to being a publisher. So that's the responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah. And the guarantees then for the advertisers is the commitment or the promise of quality. Whilst the quality might be a different level to what we're expected from a linear broadcast possibility, it's still quality relative to those bits of content that don't fulfil these requirements. Yeah. By going down this route and going, actually, I might choose to spend more money on here than on other YouTube content because the downside risk is too great reputationally to get it wrong for one impression in the wrong place.
Yeah, absolutely, and puts the onus back, I think, on the content makers, also YouTube, to provide that layer of safety and trust, rather than the onus has been on us to try and navigate it. So, that will help massively.
Okay, everyone, terrific conversation. Thank you very much for sticking at it and pushing through.
Cheers.
Thank you, Alex.
Cheers. Cheers.